So in this episode of Book of the Beast, we're going to be going over the Army Special Rules, the Warlord traits, and the detachments. So there's two Army rules. The first one is Here We Go. And Here We Go is just freaking awesome. There's no two ways around it. If every model in a unit, and pretty much the only models that don't have it are vehicles and grots, the unit can reroll a single dice when determining its charge range. That's every charge, every turn, without restriction. It is just fantastic. And everything has it. Storm Boys have it, War Bikes have it, which is it's basically fleet for War Bikes, and you're not going to see that anywhere else. So that's just really fantastic. And it's like a mini fleet, and it's just, there's no downside. It's great. There are lots of things you can do with this, in addition to, rolling a dice to try and make a charge. If you've got a charge guarantee, so say if you got 7 inches and you roll 6 and a 1, you can re-roll that 1 to try and get more guys in. So don't think about it as just making or not making a charge range. You might also want to, say if you got 5 inches and you got a 6 and a 5, you might want to roll that 5 again, or that 6 again, to actually reduce the number of guys that get into combat, so that they don't wipe out a unit and they stay locked in. So there's 3 ways to actually use that to make a charge you missed, to get more guys in the combat or get fewer guys in the combat. And they're all valid and all really, really powerful manipulations of the charge distance. So Here We Go is an absolutely fantastic rule. There's no doubt about that. Mob Rule. Mob Rule is the one thing that has an absolute incredibly dramatic change from the previous book. A change that I don't really think it needed. But basically, orcs now are no longer fearless. With few exceptions, they've lost the fearless rules. And so you're going to be testing on your base leadership of 7 most of the time. But if you fail a test, or a morale check or pain test, which is things from like shooting or tank shocks or something like that, you have roll a die 6 and apply the result. So and each one of these basically has 2 different conditions that goes on. So on a roll of 1, born to fight, if the orcs are locked in close combat, it is treated as a pass morale check. If it is not locked in close combat, then it fails. So there's the conditions for that one, if you're in close combat or not. That's the only thing that matters. 2 to 3 breaking heads. If the unit includes 1 or more orc characters, including independent characters, so it doesn't even have to have boss pull or anything else, it just has to be a character, it suffers D6, strength 4 AP-hits, and then is just treated as if it passed the morale check. These hits are randomly allocated but cannot be allocated to characters. If the unit does not include any orc characters, it fails the morale check or pain test. So again, that's 2 conditions whether or not you have a character on the breaking heads. And squabble. If the unit has 10 or more models, it suffers D6 strength 4 AP-hits and is then treated as if it had passed a morale check. If the hits are randomly. If the unit has fewer than 10 models, it fails a morale check. So again, and this one checks on the mob size. So this one checks on combat or not, character or not, mob size or not. So having that boss pull to re-roll the mob rule result to get one that's more favorable for the condition you're in is very important. So I would consider having a character in every unit vital, and then a boss pull when possible. So like in a unit of Ludas, you want to take at least 1 mech, because the mechs are characters. They're not independent characters, but they are characters. So having a character in a unit of Ludas is going to be kind of important. So Warlord traits. Let's go over the 6 orc Warlord traits. Prophet of the Wa. The Warlord gains the Wa special rule, which is you get the charge after running. If the Warlord already has the rule, which is in other words a war boss, in addition to the usual effects, all friendly models with the Here We Go special rule gain the fearless special rule when he calls a Wa until the start of their next turn. So basically, if you have war boss as your Warlord, already has Prophet of War, Wa, you roll 1, you basically gains a Gazi Wa. So that's not too bad. Bellowing Tyrant. The Warlord and all friendly units within the Orc faction with a 12-inch and reroll failed morale checks and pinning tests. So this is also another really good one, especially if you're running a war boss with leadership 9. So you get a reroll here, and then you got this, and with a boss pool you can reroll this effect too. So that's 4 really good chances of not having anything bad happen to a unit if you get the Bellowing Tyrant. Number 3, like a Thunderbolt. The Warlord and all friendly units with the Orc faction within 12 inches can reroll all the dice when determining run, moves, or charge range. Wow, so that's basically fleet for all intents and purposes. I don't know why they didn't say just all friendly units within 12 inches gain the fleet special roll. I don't know. Brutal but Cunning. The Warlord can reroll 1 failed to hit or 2 wound roll each turn. And Cunning but Brutal. The Warlord can reroll 1 failed armor or invulnerable save throw each turn. I don't know why you can't really take invulnerable saves, but whatever. And number 6, might is right. The Warlord receives +1 to a strength characteristic on his profile. So I think 1, 2, 3 are by far the best ones. 4, 5, 6 are okay. I mean, War Boss really doesn't need +1 to his strength. He just doesn't. And if you're taking something else as a Warlord, then you're not going to want to get in combat anyway, so it's not really going to be very useful. So any of these 1, 2, or 3 are going to be very, very good. 4, 5, and 6 are not that great. Okay, so that's the Warlords and the Orc special rules. And so let's move over to the Orc Horde detachment. So this is a special detachment available to the Orc faction within this book. So you can use this as your primary detachment or any of your detachments. Remember, you can have any number of detachments you want. So even if you wanted to, you could just take this detachment with 3 units of Grots. It just says 3 troops is mandatory. So it's 1 HQ, 3 troops mandatory. You get 2 additional HQ slots and 6 troop slots. So you could have 3 HQs and 9 troops. And then the rest of the effects are all the same in this detachment, including 1 Lord of War and 1 Fortification. So you could actually win 3 HQs, 1 Ghazghkull, and 9 troops. Okay, so command benefits. If this attachment is your primary, you can re-roll the results when rolling on the Warlord trait table in this book, in the Orc Codex. Greenskin Hordes. Every unit with 10 or more models in this detachment. Again, this does not have the restriction of being primary or not. Gains the Hammer of Wrath special roll in any assault phase in which he successfully charges an enemy unit, and the dice roll for his charge range is 10 or more, which is another effect for Here We Go. This actually happened. I played 1 game and actually had this go off once. I didn't do anything with it, but it was still kind of cool to have Hammer of Wrath on infantry units. I have to reread the Hammer of Wrath roll to see if you get the +1 strength from Furious Charge or not. I don't think you do, but I'll have to double check. If you know the answer to that, if the Hammer of Wrath includes the +1 strength for Furious Charge, let me know, but I'm assuming it doesn't. Let's see, you don't have to move the full distance, you just have to roll a 10. And you can also be reduced below 10 from Overwatch or dangerous terrain tests along the way and still count. So the one thing you notice that this doesn't have is objective secured. So if you're using the primary, if you're using a record detachment, you don't have objective secured, which is something very important to remember when you're playing the game. So just keep that in mind if you do the record detachment, which is why I took this actually as a secondary detachment, just to have more HQ slots. So I ended up running, a total of 6 HQs, 2 regular and a mech, and then 3 HQs from this slot, from this detachment in my last game, which you've probably seen the battle report for, hopefully. If not, check it out. It's my last video. So it's interesting having a detachment specific to a faction in their codex. I find that extremely interesting and a very fun part of this book, and hopefully 7th edition going forward. And let's cover these in here too, since they really don't fit anywhere else. And these are the gifts of Gork and Mork, otherwise known as Relics. The Thinking Cap. The wearer of the Thinking Cap regenerates an additional Warlord trait from the Strategic Traits table in the rules. So they can actually have 2 Warlord traits, as long as one of them is taken with the strategic traits. And the thinking cap, I think, is 5 points, or something really stupid cheap like that. The pseudo Wazdaka bike, which basically gives you a bike with an improved gun, which is strength 6 AP 3, still assault 3, and twin linked. Right? Yeah, twin linked. So greater range, greater strength. So 24 inch, strength 6 AP 3, assault 3, twin linked. So that's not too bad. It's a little spendy. It may not be worth it, but it's the homage to Wazdaka. But of course, again, there's no Force Org swap, so it doesn't really matter. The Lucky Stick, I think this one's really good. All models in the bearer units add +1 to their weapon skill. All models in the unit. So you throw them in a unit of boys, weapon skill 5 boys. I mean, I didn't come up with, in my last game because I was playing Tau, so it didn't matter, but that's huge. Adding +1 weapon skill to 30 models, yeah. This is not cumulative with bonus from a War Banner, though. In addition, the bearer can choose to reroll any failed to hit, to wound, or saving throws that they make. However, should 3 or more of the rerolls generate failed results in the same turn, the model is immediately removed as casualty. So you can do 2 rerolls with absolutely no fear whatsoever of losing your model. But say, I mean, that third result is, say, if you're about to lose the guy anyway, so why not throw it and see what happens? And if you make the save, great. If not, great. Also, that, you know, how many times have we rolled like Snake Eyes, wounding with a power fist and stuff. So the Lucky Stick is really, really good. It's a really nice, fun artifact. And I said, just adding weapon skill to a unit of boys is just mind-boggling. Let's see, Head Wampus Kill Choppa. It's basically a big choppa that's melee, rending. Let's see, so strength +2, AP 5. So it's 2-handed, rending, and has any roll to wound of a 6 is instant death. So, of course, you want to use this. It's still pretty spendy compared to a power fist, but the war boss actually has decent enough initiative where this is useful. I probably wouldn't put it on anything else, like a secondary war boss if you have 2. Just a war boss with nothing but the Kill Choppa, and just a naked maybe cyborg body if you wanted to, and have another character unit to suck up challenges and have this guy go after rank and file guys. It's not a bad weapon. It's not great, but it's not bad. Having the rending, though, is what really makes a difference, especially when the war boss has so many attacks. Let's see, the Fixer Upper. This changes the repair of a vehicle to 3 or more. And the Dead Shiny Shooter. It's assault 6 strengths, so it's basically a 6-shot twin linked shooter. Shooter with 6 shots and is automatically twin linked. And any roll of 1 after the rerolls hits a friendly unit instead. It's really cheap. I mean, it's not that great. I mean, it's only like 5 points, but again, you're really not going to be shooting very often. You know, if you want to put it with a character that's with shooter boys, like a KFF mech, or maybe I think that's the only one to think. KFF mech, take a Dead Shiny Shooter with him, so you just add some extra firepower. But I think it's not that great of a shooting weapon overall. It would have been nice to add something a little more powerful for a relic, but it's okay, especially for the price, which is almost nothing. So yeah, so that's it. That's all we're going to cover in this video. The rules actually, surprisingly, on first look, I should say, the mob rule really is a big difference, losing that fearless. But now you don't have to keep track of the models you lose. I mean, that was the biggest change for me with the mob rule, is keeping track of how many models were lost in the shooting phase as to whether or not I had to take a leadership test. You know, I've been playing these guys for 6 years. I never had to do that before, and so it was sometimes hard for me to remember to keep track of my losses for the leadership test. So, but overall, the Warlord traits are really good. I had, and some of the rulebook Warlord traits are really useful. Like there's one that's a 12-inch bubble of the war boss's leadership, or the Warlord's leadership, and you take a war boss, that's really good. But these are, if you do roll on the Warlord traits here, you definitely want 1, 2, or 3 instead of 4, 5, or 6. So, well, that's going to wrap up this edition of Book of the Beast, and I'll talk to you guys later.